Amenhotep III, also called Amenhotep III, king of ancient Egypt, reigned between 1390 and 1353 BCE, in a period of peaceful prosperity, who devoted himself to expanding diplomatic contacts and to extensive building in Egypt and Nubia. A period of unprecedented peace, a golden age, and Egyptologists have convinced us that everybody picked up and followed Akhenaten into the wilderness to build a kingdom hundreds of miles away? That is not the case. Akhenaten abdicated the throne, and a pharaoh replaced him, but they don't tell us who that was. It's the equivalent of Democrats and their leader leaving the US Capitol for good and go create a capital somewhere else. Well, they abdicated the Capitol, and the US Capitol is still the official capital no matter where they go. The Republicans will take charge and create a leader to run that capital. Things won't stop for them. It would be the same way in Thebes. Now, if the people at Thebes believed in what Akhenaten was saying or doing, he wouldn't have to leave. His followers believed, which is why they left with him. Everybody else stayed and they carried on. So they obviously elected a new pharaoh, but Egyptologists don't tell us who that was. We're led to believe that Akhenaten was still in charge, a person who abandoned Amenhotep III's splendor. Instead of improving upon it, he went hundreds of miles away to establish a new capital. The people at Thebes did not agree with what he was doing, so he left. But if you're really in charge, you will take control. But he decided to leave with his followers and create a kingdom somewhere else. He abdicated the throne, and someone else was put in charge in Thebes. And Egyptologists don't tell us who that was. That's my whole point. It's very, very suspect. If you have any kind of sense in your head, you know that doesn't make any sense, right? Like, Amenhotep III was an amazing king. This guy takes over. All he has to do is just pretty much, follow in his footsteps and, make some improvements and stuff like that. But it's like the people were like, no, we don't like what you're doing. Get out of here. You understand? We're gonna like give you some money and stuff like that, but you have to go because we can't tolerate you. So he left. He left, and they still carried on. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I hardly believe anything Egyptologists say, because they're operating on a biased narrative, for one, because it's not their culture. And from my understanding, they like to distort history to create a false narrative that supports Israel's narrative about biblical tales in Israel. Like, for example, I strongly believe that the first king of ancient Egypt, Narmer, also known as Menes, is actually the biblical King David. I strongly believe that Amenhotep III is actually King Solomon, and that Akhenaten is actually Moses and Jesus in one. Remember, Akhenaten left Thebes and brought all his followers with him into the wilderness to go to the promised land, which is Amarna, and build his capital. You can only get to the sun god through him, Son of Man, S-U-N. Remember in Jesus' movies, he always says Son of Man, but not S-O-N, it's S-U-N. The cross is always on the sun, the sun is always on the cross, rising in the east, setting in the west, heaven and hell. The Catholic Church, one of their biggest symbols is the sun, and the Catholic Church is heavily aligned with ancient Egyptian beliefs. Heaven, hell, faith, good works, lotus, and the lily flower. We know that the Protestants had an attitude towards the Catholics, right? They eventually got control and distorted the narrative of the Catholics and the ancient Egyptians. So yes, I'm very skeptical of everything that they say. And I strongly believe that Akhenaten abandoned Thebes. We know that he definitely abandoned Thebes, but Thebes was still running. Okay? They make it seem that everybody just left and just followed this guy. Like, no. There are people who stayed. Okay? But the Egyptologists don't tell us who that pharaoh was in Thebes when Akhenaten left, abdicated the throne. So these people are just like, they just get on my nerves. You have no idea.